Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on the unsolved murder of Lindsay Jo Rimer, who was a 13-year-old girl from Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire. It will actually be 24 years this April since her body was found. For this case, I've researched lots of different articles and blogs, and I've also accessed archived newspaper articles from the time of her disappearance. Lindsay Jo Rimer was born on the 17th of February 1981 in Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire. At the age of 13, she lived with her parents, mum Jerry or Geraldine and dad Gordon, her brother Daniel and her two sisters Kate and Juliet. And Juliet was actually only 17 months old at the time of her sister's disappearance. About a year before her disappearance, Lindsay lived on Lower Rough Head Farm with her dad and her brother Daniel, and her and Daniel shared one trailer and her dad had the other. I'm not sure how long they lived on the farm and when they all moved back in together, but they eventually all moved back in together as a family into a house in the town centre of Hebden Bridge. Lindsay was described as a popular girl and she was a Year 9 student at Calder High School. On the 7th of November 1994, Lindsay left her house at around 10 p.m. to go to the local spa to get cornflakes for her breakfast in the morning. At around 10:22 p.m. was the last time she was seen alive on CCTV in the shop. On her way to the spa, she stopped in at the Trades Club pub where she knew her mum was having a drink with a friend. Her mum asked her if she wanted to stop and have a soft drink, but Lindsay said no as she needed to get to the shop. She didn't return home that night, and when she didn't turn up for her paper round the next morning, the police were informed, and they originally thought it was a runaway case. But Lindsay's family were adamant that she wasn't the type of girl to do this, and she'd never done anything like this before. And so a manhunt was launched to try and find her, including the local community and West Yorkshire police. Her older sister Kate took part in a reconstruction to try and jog people's memories. She played Lindsay in her last movements. Her friends and family handed out posters, and her school friends actually travelled down to London to hand out posters and raise awareness. The whole community were holding on to hope that she would be found alive. But just under 6 months, on the 12th of April 1995, Lindsay's body was found by two canal workers 1 mile downstream in Rochdale Canal. It was being weighted down by two concrete boulders. A post-mortem revealed that Lindsay had most likely died of strangulation of such force that her voice box was actually pushed and flattened down to her spinal cord. However, they found no evidence of sexual assault. This case had such high media coverage, but despite this, no one has ever been found and no justice has been found for Lindsay. You have to remember this is 1994, there's not a lot of CCTV, so although there was CCTV in the shops, they couldn't track how long Lindsay was alive after she left the shop. And people in the community started to suspect that it was someone else in the community that had something to do with Lindsay's murder. And an investigation was launched, and police originally believed that Lindsay had been attacked as she walked down an unlit towpath on her way back home. On the 7th of July 1995, a witness comes forward to say that on the night of Lindsay's disappearance, he was woken up at around 4 a.m. by two men acting strangely, speeding away in a green van. And police tracked this van to Ireland, and a 20-year-old man was questioned in connection with Lindsay's disappearance. However, nothing came of this, so I'm going to say it's safe to assume that this man had nothing to do with Lindsay's disappearance. Over the course of this investigation, the police have spoken to over 5,000 people and written up almost 100 witness reports, but they are still no closer to finding out who killed Lindsay. Detectives started to investigate John Taylor, who was convicted of murder for killing Leanne Turner after abducting her as she came home from a Christmas shopping trip. Another person they looked into was John Oswin, who was convicted of the rape of 2 women in 1998. However, police could find no connections to these men and Lindsay's murder. In 2016, police began to work with a specialist forensics team in Canada to try and shine a new light on the case. And in 2016, a 63-year-old man is brought in for questioning and he is arrested on suspicion of murder. But after 4 months on bail, he is released without charge and no further actions are taken. In 2017, a new DNA profile is identified and a 68-year-old man was arrested as a result of this. He was questioned, but again, nothing came of this and he was released without any actions being taken. After Lindsay's body was found, Jerry and Gordon actually separated, but her family still work hard to try and bring justice for Lindsay. We're going to talk about some theories now. So this is what could have possibly happened to Lindsay the night that she was murdered. So an ex-detective who was working on a separate murder investigation spoke to the Halifax Courier in 2017, and he says he believes the police missed a vital suspect. He was former Sergeant John Matthews, and he believed that this man that he was interviewing as part of a separate murder investigation had something to do with Lindsay's disappearance and subsequent murder. He was investigating the murders of 18-year-old Tina Bell and 22-year-old mother Julie Hogg. He believes this man was suspicious because he had connections to Tina's family and also Julie's family, and he knew the Rimer family. He had connections to both areas, Teesside and Hebden Bridge, which is where he'd lived. He'd moved down from Teesside. He knew the man who eventually ended up being connected with Julie's murder, and he was one of the last 2 people to see Tina alive. And he also says that there's similarities with the fact that both women were strangled and they weren't found for months afterwards. Julie Hogg died as a result of a very violent sex attack, and the coroner believed that she died of possible asphyxiation caused by strangulation. Her body wasn't found until 3 months after her disappearance behind a bath panel by her own mother in her own house. 2 bones and a skull that were proved to be Tina Bell were found by 2 youths who were shooting pigeons at the ICI Castle Works. And police believed that whoever had buried those bones there had also tried to dissolve them in a chemical bath of some sorts. Now, it could be plausible, however, these 2 women were murdered in completely different fashions and they both had sexual elements to their murders. However, there was no sexual element to Lindsay's murder. And it could well be that the person that did this kind of ran out of time, or they got caught, or that it wasn't a sexual element to it at all. It could be plausible that this guy did kill Lindsay, but he had nothing to do with Tina's and Julie's murder, and it was just a coincidence. Another theory was that Peter Tobin committed this murder because he covered such a large geographical area and he quite often strangled his victims, but again, there was a sexual element to all of his crimes, and a lot of his victims were found with their bras or their pantyhose, and he tended to go for older women, not 13-year-old girls. Another theory which people believe could be that somebody followed her from the shop or the pub and followed her back home and attacked her on her way back home down that unlit towpath. Allegations started to come out about Jimmy Savile because he had a holiday home near Hebden Bridge. But police investigated this and dismissed these claims and said that there was absolutely no evidence to prove that Jimmy Savile had anything to do with Lindsay's disappearance. There are still posters up in Hebden Bridge and people still try to find Lindsay to this day, although, like I say, we're not any closer. Anyone with information is asked to call detectives on 01924 821 441. I think the most likely explanation here is either the man that the detective interviewed, who has since died, or the fact that someone followed her home from the pub or the shop. I don't think the other theories are true. I think it's really sad that we don't know what happened to her, and I hope for her family's sake, so that her family to get some rest and know what happened to their daughter in their final moments, that her killer is caught soon. However, like I say, there hasn't been any news on this case since 2017. I'll leave any relevant links in the description box below if anybody has any information and wants to get in contact with West Yorkshire Police, who've said that they're never going to stop looking for Lindsay's killer. Thank you for watching today's video. Please subscribe, like this video and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.